What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Future Focus Podcast, where we're giving you all the nitty-gritty ins and outs of on season 1 of Credit Fundamentals. Just basically the ins and outs of credit, how it works in a basic way. Just keep in mind, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial planner. This is just, us chopping it up and, figuring out how to apply this to not only our lives, but hopefully you can pick up some things through this and apply it to your life, right? So this is my son, Noah.
What's up?
Yep, Noah Lowry. And so, obviously you've heard me on the phone quite a bit.
Yeah.
Talking to different people, especially during COVID, of course, when I worked from the house. And, we've had several conversations about the fundamentals of credit and whatnot, like what it means and just basics. But let's go to like high school. Right, like what they're teaching you in high school right now, because he's a junior at the moment in high school. Are they teaching you any financial information, any kind of classes, or math teacher giving you any kind of economics or talk about credit at all?
I know in my school specifically, and just like basic curriculum, they don't really teach us anything about like economic or financial. The closest thing that we have to that is like math.
Right.
Like basic understanding of math. I mean, that helps obviously.
Right.
But like as far as like credit, anything economic.
What about budgets? Do they even go over like budgets with you?
No.
Like, hey, if you get paid this much a month, like this much goes towards your rent, this much goes towards your mortgage, this much, nothing like that?
Nothing like that, no.
I mean, come on, guys. You would think that would be like some basic information that they need to be teaching our kids. I mean, because we had home ec growing up in high school, and I know, in high school they didn't have any, really, economic classes or budgeting classes to kind of help you with real life situations, and I know that a lot of us parents don't really have these conversations with our kids, like tangible information, like we just talked about. Okay, if you're gonna make $4,000 a month, then you taking the taxes out of it, and then breaking down the rest of your bills. But has any teachers even brought it up to you or even hinted like, hey guys, you need to be learning about credit?
Not really. I mean, it is brought up, like as far as them telling us that we need to be prepared for when we get out of high school.
Right.
But they don't really teach us how to do it. It's more just like
no basic
just
fundamentals
is
or
brought
anything.
up. Yeah.
Got it. That's just sad. And this is why it's really up to us, as parents, as guardians, even as big brothers, uncles, or even just example to our other family. I don't know about you guys, but the way that I grew up, this wasn't a topic in the house at all. It wasn't anything about credit. There wasn't anything about budgeting or any of that. And even in today's age, I know that a lot of the parents and the adults that I talk to don't have these conversations with their kids, and even one step further than that, they don't even have the right information themselves. So how could they possibly impart something to their child if they don't even really know the basics of it and how it really works? I mean, a lot of us know how to manage our money, and that's not what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about like how credit really works, how 401ks really work, really budgeting your money. We just, sit down, look at our rent, look at our other bills, but we don't really, practically apply that residual income, that extra money that we have towards, accelerating the credit card payments, paying off the house quicker, paying off the note quicker. But anyways, that being said, so from all of we'll start basic. What is the basics that you've learned from me, in conversations in passing about credit and how it works?
Like the basic of credit, which I think most people would know, is just it's a representation, or not a representation, but just a way to get stuff it's your trust. It's for people to trust you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So depending on how high or low it is depending on how much trust that person is willing to give you as far as money. So let's say, like I know we've talked about it. Let's say you want to get a car.
Right.
I know that you need a certain credit score, and that it'll help your payment if your credit score is higher because you're more trustworthy. Yeah, exactly. And same thing with house. Like to be able to qualify for the loan, which is what you do, you need a certain credit score, and you need to also have the financial ability to back it up.
Reserves, and reserves are just in place in case, crap hits the fan. You lose a job or you switch. And then it's, at least you'll have something to fall back on, at least till you get on your feet. So, like, fundamentally, though, is aside from, installment loans like vehicles and mortgages and whatnot, like, what is your understanding of what an actual credit card is and how it functions?
Well, I know that you're trusted with a certain amount of money a month, and you have a limit on that credit card. And depending on your credit score is depending on the limit that you are able to spend.
Right.
And I know that you want to be able to pay that back on time, and using your credit card builds your credit score.
Right.
If you use it correctly.
If you use it correctly. Now, what do you think determines how much money that bank is going to give you to spend as a limit on that credit card? What do you think is the determining factors of that?
Like,
how do they decide? Okay, well, Noah, we'll give him $2,000, and then James, we'll give him $5,000. What do you think determines that?
It's your score, right? You're like
mainly. Yeah. There's other parameters there too, though. There's other parameters such as how much you make.
Yeah.
There's something that is called debt to income ratio. And debt to income ratio is just simply how much you have coming in every month. You've heard me say this a million times.
Yeah.
And this is a simple version of it, right? Just how much money you have coming in every month versus going out.
Yeah.
Now, financial institutions don't typically take your utilities into consideration. They're not going to say, okay, well, your power bill is this, your insurance is that. I mean, that is a factor, but it's not something that, it's hardcore. And that's something you got to be careful of too, is because, And yes, I'm gonna blow the whistle on a few of these companies. Look, if you have a really good credit score, most of the time they don't even verify your income. So you're filling out an application online. Let's say, I won't say names because we don't want to get in trouble. But let's say you're filling out a credit application online, right? And you put in your income as $60,000 a year. I'm not saying you should do this, but I'm just saying this is the idea behind it. So you put your income in at $60,000, knowing dang well you make $30,000, right? Now, if you have a really good credit score, a lot of the times that company is still gonna just extend you credit. Now, that line of credit is ultimately gonna be determined not only by your credit score, but what's your income. And they're getting a lot more savvy nowadays because now they have these programs that directly connect to your bank account and can look at your monthly expenses. It's our AI, artificial intelligence, they're bots that do it. But simply put, though, even though you're not making $30,000, you're not making $60,000, you're making $30,000. You put the higher amount in there, and a lot of the times it will trigger a higher limit for you. Now you're thinking that's a great thing, right? But do you think it would be a really good thing if you've never really haven't had a lot of experience with credit and they give you a $5,000 limit?
I don't think that'd be a good thing.
Not
because if you can't pay it, then
you can get yourself in trouble real quick. You can go out. What are you going to do? Normally, like most people, especially, like, listen, case in point, if you got a $5,000 limit, maybe just take out the fact that, I'm your dad.
Yeah.
But if you had a $5,000 limit on a credit card, what more than likely you think most teenagers would do?
Use it on going out and getting clothes and things that are not really a necessity, but more things that you want. Yeah.
You can't put it any simpler than that, And that's what a lot of people do, right? And again, we, us as humans, like, we always have the best intentions, right? Like, okay, well, I'll work some overtime and I'll make that extra payment, or I'll knock that out next paycheck. But then life happens, right? You need new tires. Because look, even one flat tire, let's say you had a blowout on the freeway, all your other tires are bald as well, and you're already there, and you have at the tire shop, and you have a limit. So, that $150, $200 tire just became an $800 to $1,000 spend, right? And then again, you're thinking in your head you're going to chunk it out, but then something else happens, right? Maybe you get sick. Maybe you got to go to the ER or whatever, and, you don't have insurance. Bottom line is life happens, and we got to be careful. But what I'm getting at with all that is ultimately, don't get yourself in financial positions that 100% that, unless 100% that you can make that payment comfortably and get out of it, right? Don't just look at like just making the minimum payments on credit cards, right? So if you're looking at purchasing something on credit, and you got to keep in mind, like, a credit card is a compounded interest. It's not like a simple interest rate like you get on like your home, like a home loan or a vehicle is more of a, this is the amount of interest you're paying on this amount of money over this particular period of time. Credit card interest rates are ultimately variables. So depending on, the volatility of the economic situation and the stock market is going to depend on what that interest rate is. But, what I'm getting at is we have to be very cautious with what we spend and how we spend it, and being able to make that payment comfortably, and not just the minimum payment, because if you're just making minimum payments on a credit card, it's going to take you a long time and a lot of interest to pay that off. Even if it's just $5 extra every month, even if it's just $500 or $5 extra, you want to at least make an extra payment towards that credit card so you can get it paid off a lot quicker and not have to pay as much interest. Now, for the conversation, I'm curious, like, have you ever had any conversations with your friends or anything about like credit or finances or?
Never. I think mainly like kids my age, they don't know anything about that because we don't have the people in our lives to educate us about it. And I think that the important thing about that is integrating it into our lives will also help us like communicate with each other about it and get a greater understanding. Because with the internet now, you could look up anything.
Right.
And if it's brought up and you're like, oh, like, I wonder what this is, then you could educate yourself about it.
And there's so much information on the internet too. Like, especially, if you're a kid, or a young adult, Googling something. I mean, of course, they can wade through a lot of that information a lot quicker than a lot of us older people can, but, and generally speaking, but there's so much information out there still. Like one person says this, another person says this, another person says this, another person says this, but, how do you apply it? And that's, one thing that I've always tried to instill in you is you have to make your own determination of the information that you're getting and the way that it works best for you, right? Because the way that I do things is, and that's where I think a lot of parents get it messed up, is we try to impose on our kids our will and the way that we do things. So you got to do things the way I'm telling you if you want, but that's not really fair to you. I mean, in my personal opinion, our job is to really just lay the foundation for you guys and give you ideas and get you thinking, right? So if we give you the fundamentals, which is the foundation, just the basic ins and outs, and then we guide you through that process, then you can make your determination of what, is going to work best for you. And I think that's where, as adults too, a lot of it gets away from people because, most of us just do things the way we see everybody else doing things, right? So we look at an example of maybe somebody who's more successful than us or has credit, and how do we determine that, right? How do we normally determine someone's success level? It's the things that they own, right? What kind of car they drive, how they dress.
Superficial things.
Right, but isn't that like the complete opposite of really what we should do? I mean, we should never use, especially when we're talking about credit, because if we're keeping it 100, like most people who have those nice things purchased it all on credit. So it's ultimately, and don't take this the wrong way, it's like the blind leading the blind, and it's very similar to 401ks, right? Like, that mentality is very similar to 401ks. You know what a 401k is?
Isn't it your retirement? It has to do with a retirement plan?
Right. So say you're employed with ABC, right? ABC company. And you get a job with them, and part of choosing an employer is their benefit package. They call it. Like, how much of the insurance do they cover? Were they going to match my 401k? And so a lot of times, the companies do different things, but a lot of times it's like a dollar for dollar match on the 401k. Meaning, if you put in $200, they're going to match your $200. And you can choose per paycheck, per month, whatever it is, but. And that money goes into an interest-bearing account, meaning you're going to make a percentage of money annually on the amount of money that you put into it, right? But the thing is I could line up 10 people and ask each of those 10 people, how does your 401k work? The majority of people will say, oh, well, my employer matches it, and this is how much they match. Well, that's not ultimately how it works, you know, and just because everyone else does it this way, you know, most of us think that we're just going to, you know, contribute to the 401k and, you know, that's our retirement. But, you know, and that's what I was getting at with the mentality. Just because someone else is doing it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the right way, because how many people, you know, have we seen in our lives that we know that have done everything that they were supposed to do, meaning, you know, got good grades in school, like in high school, either got a good job out of high school or went to college, you know, maintained their credit, paid their bills on time, got a home, you know, paid all their bills on time, but in retirement owned their own house. How many people do we know that did everything that they were supposed to do, good jobs, everything, that owned their house or close to owning their house in retirement? Hardly any. Why is that? It's because we think, oh, well, just because they, just like I said, they did it, so let me do what they did because I want to live that life, or at least have that peace of mind and comfortability. But, you know, it's the system. The system is, we've all been kind of programmed, I won't say all of us, the majority of us have been programmed to act and behave a certain way, so we don't ask questions.
Yeah.
So we continue just to, you know, coast through life, you know, and then that's where, and then we spend money we don't have on things we don't need. And, you know, I don't know about you guys, but, you know, 80% of the people who stress, you know, and have to kill themselves at work and whatnot, it's all because of overspending and not managing their finances, or at least being aware of it, you know, specifically on credit. You know, you go get the quads, you go get the boat, you go get the jet skis, you know, the razors, you know, and while you have a good job and it's all good, it seems to be okay. But, you know, you're literally just driving down the street and throwing your money out the window. And there's a lot of other ways that you can manage it. So, you know, that was a big, long story. But the point to that is, you know, and we've always talked about this, is you have to question everything.
Yeah.
You know, you have to, you know, make your own determination of what's going to work best for you. You know, not just kids. It's everybody in life, you know. We need to question things more often. Now, you know, what is your main financial goal in life? What do you project? Because I know you've thought about it. You know, so out of high school, what do you see your trajectory going?
I think just being comfortable, like not having to worry financially, and I think that's everybody's goal mainly.
Right.
Is just financial comfortability.
Right.
Would be the best way to define it.
Right. And what do you think is the best way to be financially comfortable? Like, I mean, just off the cuff.
Like having your own house and being able to afford nice things, like obviously not being rich, but just having enough.
So what's your steps to that freedom? What in your mind, I know you've mapped it out and we've talked about it too. What is your steps to obtain that financial freedom, that financial comfortability?
Well, first, college. I think it starts with college because you need a degree, especially nowadays.
And what though? Now, what determines what you take? But what determines what degree you take?
What do you mean by that?
Well, what determines what classes you take in college? As far as what do you want to get your diploma in?
Like business and advisory would be the...
Right, but will you have a thought process behind that though, right? You know what I mean? You just didn't say, okay, I'm going to do business because I know I want to make money, right? Yeah. Like, what was your thought process? Like, should I do this? Should I do that? Was more of preference involved in your final decision, you know, of what you were going to take in college?
The degree would be business and marketing, but the reason for that would be, I think marketing does play a big role in how successful you are, especially nowadays, and with online advertisement and just putting yourself out there. So
that's it, and marketing yourself above all else, right? Because a lot of us tend to focus so much on branding our business, which is important, but at the end of the day, you are your business. You know, how you portray your business and know how to, you know, broadcast your business is really what's going to help you be successful.
And I think that marketing is more important than the business itself. Because if you know how to market, I mean, obviously it matters what business you have, but
absolutely,
it will help you become more successful
a lot quicker
than just having a good business plan or idea.
Absolutely. And though, you know, those of the audience are self-employed or entrepreneurs that got a side gig, a side hustle, like that's important. You know, we tend to so much just focus on like maybe paying someone else, right? We pay someone else. We know marketing is important. We know we got to get out there, but a lot of that technology we tend to think is so over our heads that we'll pay someone to do it. But then a lot of the times that's where we can, cause ourselves setbacks. I won't say fail because it's not the right word, but we could cause ourselves setbacks because what do? We typically, do some research on a marketing company, and then we'll just pay them the money, and then, we let it go, right? And we trust them to do their job. But how do we know what they're supposed to be doing? How do we know? Because I'm telling you guys, I have gone through so many marketing companies over the years. And it is very, very sad and mind-boggling to me that a lot of these companies will just take your money, and sure, you do see results, but like when you want to call and ask for the proof of those results, like, okay, meaning what areas is this ad being shown? What areas is this going to? What's the demographic of the people who are looking at my ads? Where's the traffic coming from? Is it Facebook? What time of day are they coming? Anyways, just those little things. They don't like to share that information with you. And then if you don't know how to look at that information and that company's not willing to share that information with you, it can be detrimental to your business. Yeah. It can, because, a lot of the times it's just, okay, here's this $5,000 package, you pay them, and then you'll get XYZ results, right? And as long as those results are relatively within the parameters that we think they should be, even though we don't know because we've never done it before, but as long as we're seeing some results from it, we think it's the best. And a lot of the times it isn't the case. So my point being, check always on anything you do, we need to ask the questions and at least educate ourselves on the fundamentals so that way we have a better idea of how those things work. But so marketing, and then you talk about now business. Why did you think business was, why did you choose business over almost any other degree you could get?
I think I chose business just because of the education aspect of it, as far as, because business is almost essential to life. And in most cases, I mean, other degrees you could create if you take other degrees and you want to create your own business, or you want to work for somebody else. But if you have a business degree and you know how to start your own business, and you know how to run that business, then you're more than likely more successful than working for somebody else who has their own business.
Right, and because you know what they're supposed to be doing, right? And you can check them. Just like we were talking about with the marketing. You know what that person's supposed to be doing. They're like a manager or whoever, accountant, because business teaches you all of those aspects. But ultimately, like you said, okay, so that was the first step, right?
Yeah.
Is getting a degree, right? Going to college, and then what else after that?
Well, in the first years, just building my business, but in the meantime, because you need a form to make money, and sometimes it takes a while for your business to build up. So I would more than likely work for somebody else, so that I could be able to get money and then invest that money and then put it into my business, and then it expands from there, like a stepping stone.
Absolutely, steps. Progression, not A to Z overnight. And there's nothing wrong with having big dreams, right? Like we've always talked about. But it's better to, you want to have the steps, baby steps to get there. Like, and then the person that you would work for, would that naturally be, in the same industry as what you would want to go into business on yourself and do?
I would say maybe real estate. Because I know that real estate is almost what would you call it?
Loans or real estate?
Real estate.
Okay.
So, because real estate's always going to be around. People are always going to need a place to live.
Absolutely.
And as far as the market, it is varying.
Right.
But as long as people are alive, they're going to need somewhere to live.
Absolutely.
So,
commercial or residential, And that teaches you so many different aspects of business as well that you can apply to anything, margin, split. Just so many different things. Now, as far as your end goal, like what you want to do in life, where do you see yourself in, I don't want to be cheesy, I'll say like 5 years. Like, what's your 5-year goal? I don't want to be like that. But where do you see yourself, let's say, 2 years out of college?
2 years out of college, I see myself building my business, but also working for somebody else so that I could have enough money to actually start my business.
Right. Now, as a part of starting your own business, how much do you believe that credit plays a role into that?
I think a big part, because you need credit to be able to get your building you want to work in if you want an office.
Right.
And you need it.
Your loans for capital to run your
Yes.
business, and that's very important. I mean, and business credit is a little bit different than personal, but it's all fundamentally like the same thing, It's based on worthiness and what you look like on paper, and that's why it's so crucial to, not only maintain your credit, but, maintain your assets, and have that build for much longer, because the assets are a very, very huge thing. What determines, what banks use to determine, should I say, your credit worthiness as well. Meaning, how much they can loan you safely and know that they're going to get their money back. And I think that's where a lot of, us tend to miss the boat as well. Is like, well, a lot of times we'll save, and then, the entrepreneurs out there know what I'm talking about, and then use that lump sum to open our own business. But then, it takes a while for that business to get going. And then, of course, those the money that we had in reserve, we used to open the business. And now we're kind of, hurting a little bit trying to get this business off the ground, because we used all of our, well, not just the business, living while the business is getting off the ground. What I mean by living is like your day-to-day bills, your monthly bills, because we used the money that we saved to open our business. So where credit comes in is to bridge that gap, right? So now the money that you've been saving to open your business, now you can use that to supplement your income, and then you use the business lines of credit to operate your business, whether that's buying supplies or, paying your monthly bills or whatever the case is. So, it's a lot of people don't know, and especially kids, in high school and whatnot, don't have a clue, most of the time, how important, not only credit is, but understanding money.
Yeah.
How it really works. Because let's keep it real, like, our kids are going to have it rough, man. Like, if they don't have the right tools and guidance in the future, everybody sees what's happening in the world now. But at the same time, they have more tools and resources available to them now to be successful. If he really wanted to, he could literally just watch a YouTube video on how to build a dropship store. I'm just using that as an example. And he has a step-by-step guide to start that store, But how many parents are even sharing really some of this information with the kids, or even guiding them and nudging them into that direction? Imagine, even if that drop shipping company failed, the website failed, how much would he learn from that?
Yeah.
How much wisdom and knowledge would he pick up from that happening? So the other day I was on TikTok, and then, I started texting him because I saw this dog lint roller. It's kind of cheesy, but it was you could just wash it and it becomes sticky again and all that. And so I was like, well, what a great opportunity to go through this with him and showing him how to link it. You never have to see the product. It's not anything you tangibly have to stock yourself, but learning how to start the Shopify store, how to link the accounts, how to, tie in the supplier, right? So you don't ever have to see the merchandise. It just gets drop shipped directly to. But anyways,
Yeah.
And we had started that. But what I'm getting at is the amount of tools that they have available to them today is crazy. But we can't just expect, our kids to, be like us, in the sense that, like us, where we just had to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
So, you guys have everything at your fingertips today that you need to do whatever it is that you want to do. It doesn't matter what it is, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, it's at least for me, I know that you're going to make your own mistakes, and I want you to make your own mistakes, meaning, I don't want to try to coddle you too much and everything, because there's a lot of things that you just have to process by yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even though, I could put on a cape and come in, but it's hard not to do that, especially, as much as I love you and don't want you to like make a lot of the mistakes like that I made.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's necessary. It's necessary, especially, again, with the internet, you don't know what exactly is legitimate information or just something somebody completely made up.
It's a blessing and it's a curse at the same time.
It really is. It really is. And it's overwhelming probably more for you guys too, because you don't know exactly, and that's again generally speaking, because you don't know which way is going to be the best way, which way is going to, yield the best results. And that's what I was talking about, the mistakes.
Yeah.
A lot of that's just going to come through you trying something and failing, but, it's at the end of the day, we as parents, and it's just my opinion. I know a lot of people might get pissed off. I'm not trying to tell anybody how to be a parent and what they should do. This is just from my experience being in the industry that, the financial industry for so long, and for many different facets and different positions, and seeing this is we as parents tend to talk a good game, we talk a real good game about what we feel like our kids should and shouldn't do when it comes to finances or decisions or sports or whatever it is in our lives or their lives, and we don't allow them a lot of the times to have their own voice, like truly have their own voice. And I don't mean speaking, I mean their own voice in their actions, and let them, make the mistake to get out there and do those things. And let's face it, the majority of us parents are hypocrites, there's been a lot of times where myself included, and I didn't do that intentionally. It's just that, it's ironic because we don't want our kids to make the same mistakes we did, but yet we don't give them the ability to not really truly, because we just exemplify the old behavior a lot of the times that we did when we made that mistake, and then expect them not to do that. But anyways, we need to let them go out on their own, but again, be that example at the same time, not just preach at our kids what we want them to do. Do this because, that's what I did, or don't do this because that's what I did, whatever it may be. But having a normal conversation, and talking to you about the basics and fundamentals of whatever that, whether it's money, whether it's credit, whether it's starting your own business, whether it's starting your own, whatever it may be. But as it pertains to general finances and credit, we don't exemplify that a good behavior to our kids, because us as adults, the majority of us, again, spend money we don't have on things we don't need. So, and that, as much as we preach at our kids to tell them not to do something, at the end of the day, we turn around and do the opposite. So most of, you pick up the real life lessons in life are really going to be what you see as an example from, your mom and dad. Not so much what they're preaching to you about.
Yeah, and going back to the conversation, I think it's important, like, from my perspective and from kids my age, not just telling your kid, like, do this, do that, but leveling with them and talking to them like, not necessarily an equal, but like
a person,
an
actual individual that has their own thoughts and personality. And I think that's where a lot of us parents kind of miss the boat a lot of the times, is we think of you as our kids more than
individual.
An individual, like your own feelings, or figuring that out at least, or even taking the time to ask you the questions. What do you like? What do you not like? You know what I mean? Instead of just checking their grades and being on them about schoolwork or sports or whatever it is. And I really do firmly believe that that's why we have the relationship that we have, is because I've always allowed them to have their voice, and to speak and talk and debate, We can have a conversation. It doesn't have to be a conversation that we agree upon, and we share our views with one another. And just because my son or any of my kids think differently than I do, I don't put my foot down and get pissed off at them, But at the end of the day, this is really about, finances and understanding credit fundamentally. So if we, pick this information up, and that's really what the premise of this podcast is is just for everybody who's watching to understand more about being consciously aware of what they're spending and how they're spending it, and how credit works on just the most basic level, from A to Z, and not, adding trade lines and authorized users and all this other stuff, but just really, the basic information, so then you can determine how it's going to work best for you. So then we start exemplifying that, right? And learning about the credit and getting that situated, inevitably all your other finances start falling in line with that, right? So then instead of, those of us who don't have those verbal conversations with our kids about financing, they'll just pick it up from proximity.
Yeah.
Because they'll see what we're doing. They see, okay, you went from struggling and dad working, 60, 70 hours a week and coming home burnt out all the time, to now he's a little more, or she is a little more present.
Yeah.
When you're around the kids, because how many of us, get so burnt out from work and we get home, we take a shower, do whatever, we're in our phone, and, our kids come and talking to us, and a lot of times we don't even give them eye contact. We're just steady in our phone, and we don't do it intentionally. It's not like we don't love our kids, but we're just so burnt out from having to work so much because we have to pay all these bills, and a lot of times we get ourselves in that situation that, we're not present, and that affects them tremendously, because a lot of the times they may feel like it's something, what did I do wrong, or it's something they did that caused us to be upset, but, anyways, it's ultimately really, 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 like, let's put our money where our mouth is as parents, and really get a hold of, our finances and our credit, so then we can learn how to level up, so we won't have to work those 9 to 5s if we choose not to, because we live in a day and age where we could do literally anything we want.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a college degree anymore to be successful, to make the good money, with all the tools that we have at our fingertips, and you can just literally open up YouTube and just start there and learn how to be an entrepreneur and almost any topic you could possibly imagine. But, we want to really kind of end on this. I don't like to go, left on, politics or anything like that too much, but it's important that, we drive this point home, and a lot of people don't realize that we have the power as people anymore, right? Our government isn't for us. Our government clearly, at least generally speaking, doesn't seem to have our best interest at heart, and I really believe, the reason why that is because money has become the driving force behind everybody's lives, rich, poor, left, right, and why I bring up the money is because, the big corporations, the Pepsis, the Cokes, the oil, the pharmacies, anyways, all these big companies are the ones who pay for these politicians to run for office, and naturally those big companies are going to align themselves with the politicians they feel best fits their agenda and is going to pass, legislate, bills, whatever it may be, that will help them make more money, right? So what started is, the government was put in place by the people for the people, winds up being more about, let me go with whatever ideology is going to put the most money in my pocket from this corporation, very similar to an uncle you have does, but I'm not saying that politicians are bad, and I'm not saying corporate America is necessarily bad. I don't want to portray that. I just am saying that we need to be aware that we don't have a lot of help out here, guys. I don't know about you guys, but most of my life I haven't had hardly anybody really lend me a helping hand. I've had to figure it out, and get out there. And I'm not saying anybody's waiting for a handout from the government or anything like that, but at some point we have to take an active involvement in our own lives, and stop talking about it and actually be about it. Specifically as it pertains to our kids, the world we're leaving them right now is not a good one, You know, I'm not going to get into particulars, but, you know, we need to empower our children and ourselves. And the only way, the best way we can do that is getting control of our finances and becoming more financially literate and financially disciplined, you know. But a lot of us, especially coming from, you know, like where I come from, this wasn't a topic that was ever brought up growing up. And we hardly had any money. I mean, we were on welfare, and, you know, you heard a little bit of the story in foster care and things like that. So, you know, even in the foster care, I went through probably 3 or 4 different homes. They were just getting by, and they had foster kids so they could make ends meet and get by. But it was very, very never a topic in any environment that I ever grew up with or in that about finances in any way, shape, or form. Only overheard talk of how are we going to pay the bills? How are we going to make it this month? Mommy, why is the electricity out? You know, that kind of conversation. So we arm ourselves with the basics, so then, of course, we can apply it to our lives. And then again, in proximity, our kids pick this up, you know, and then naturally it's going to go from generation to generation. Yeah. But at the end of the day, this is about freedom, you know, and I do believe the powers that be keep us, you know, down by finances, by our bills. You know, they keep us in that rat race because we just have to make ends meet, and then we work so hard we forget about you guys, you know. Yeah. And it's not so much about the money as it is about the relationship that we have with you, you know. And I think that's where a lot of us, you know, mess up, is and myself included at times. It's about, you know, what wisdom can we impart to you and Michaela and Elijah to give you the path of least resistance. Yeah. I don't want to say easiest, because ain't nothing gonna ever be easy, so to speak. You know what I mean? There's no matter if you're rich and multi-billionaire or, you know, on welfare, there's always trial and tribulations in life. But you know, it's always been my goal, our goal, to, you know, try to just give you the tools that you need to hit that path of least resistance. You know, but as far as, I mean, because you've seen everything. You know, from us having damn near nothing to the completely opposite of that. Yeah. You know, out of all the things, and we're going to end on this note, out of all the things, you know, or experiences that you've seen from the outside looking in, what has stood out the most to you as far as a lesson that you've learned and seeing us go through anything financial? Not that we've told you, not anything that, you know, you heard me preach about or anything like that, but from the outside in, what is something that has stood out the most to you? That maybe a lesson that you picked up? I think just first take everything with a grain of salt, as we talked about before. Question everything that you hear. Yeah. And so that you could apply it to your life and just be your own person. Don't let others and what other people are doing affect you, and really just focus on what you want. Because I think, like you said, like we talked about, people get caught up with financial problems. Yeah. But I think if you're just following your own passions first and being your own person, I think everything else will come with it. It does. It does. Couldn't have said it better myself, you know, and being real, you know, being honest about, you know, life and what it's really like, and not just, you know, trying to make it seem like it's something that it's not. So we appreciate you guys. You know, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Again, you know, this is just, you know, again, not a financial planner. This is not financial advice. Just really want to share or experience strength and hope with you. And I'm here always. We're here for any questions that you have. Any ideas as well. I mean, we nothing's perfect. We don't, you know, this isn't like a super professional production or anything. So, you know, I'm sure there's you know, gonna be lots of trolls in the comments trying to tell us what we could do better or not. But we welcome that as well. You know, anything we can do to improve, or a topic maybe that you'd like to hear about, or you'd like to hear us address. We're really open to that, you know. So please feel free to reach out anytime. We appreciate you guys and we love you, and we'll catch you next time. Future Focus out.